Paracelsus' warning, Nostradamus' secret writings and the 7 seals of revelation, the prophets and the digital age. Greetings to all my dear people. In this video we talk about how ancient visionaries announced the challenges of the future from 2025 to 2035. What if I told you that your loss of attention isn't accidental? What if this was the last step in a plan that was written 500 years ago? A combination of 3 prophecies. Today we connect 3 dots that no one is allowed to connect. Nostradamus' Vatikan manuscript that has been hidden for decades, Paracelsus' warning about soulless machines, and the biblical revelation that is now being printed on your screens. Through digital currencies that become a condition of survival, through algorithms that know your thoughts before you speak them, and through a web that weaves around the entire planet. The screen is no longer a window to the world, it has become a piece of paper on which the last chapter of human history as we know it is written. In this second part of my series, we mapped the most critical decade of humanity from 2025 to 2035, and analyze the foundations laid by Paracelsus, Nostradamus, and the Holy Scriptures in order to understand what awaits us not only tomorrow, but in the years ahead. They all saw the 20th century as the time of the Great Oblivion, in which people forget God and nature, and the 21st century as the time of the Great Awakening. We'll also talk about the timeline leading up to 2026, and the reason why the ancient prophets saw you as the last line of defense. Stay until the end, because what Nostradamus called the Great Deception is just beginning. Let's start with Paracelsus. Paracelsus, the man who predicted AI. Paracelsus Aureolus Theophrastus Bombastus von Hohenheim, 1493 to 1541, famous Swiss doctor, physician, revolutionary of medicine, alchemist, astrologer, philosopher, mystic, radical reformer of medicine. He rejected the classical medicine of Galen and Avicenna. He introduced chemical substances into treatment, the forerunner of modern pharmacology. He gave lectures in German, not Latin, which was scandalous at the time. He publicly burned medical books of authority in public squares because he believed that knowledge had become dogma. This made him a radical reformer and a rebel against the knowledge system of the time. His contribution to the claim "doses makes poison" has become the foundation of modern toxicology. Poison is in everything, and nothing is without poison. The dose alone makes a thing not a poison. Paracelsus' teachings on the soul, knowledge, and transformation bring numerous records about the connection between the body and the spirit and the influence of the cosmos on man, Renaissance cosmology, and about the time in which man's internal transformation occurs, but also the decline of morality, the abuse of knowledge, false teachers, and the time when the disease of the spirit will be greater than the disease of the body, which can currently be connected to today's time of information manipulation and AI technology. In the writings attributed to him, it is mentioned that a time will come when people will not know who to trust. Authorities will clash with each other, knowledge will be distorted, and he described it as a time of great confusion. Then he mentioned that at that time the disease of the spirit would be widespread, and he argued that the real disease comes from a disturbance of the inner balance, which again can point to today's times. Information overload, anxiety, fear, polarization. We can say that it has become a collective psychological disease. And transformation before external reversal. Unlike Revelation, which foreshadows the change that comes through system changes, and Nostradamus, who talks about the change that comes in cycles, Paracelsus says, change begins from within. If you don't change, the system will just happen again. The 16th century man was talking about something else, not about the fall of the world, but about the fall of man. He sees this initial period around 2026 as a time of chemical marriage, or alchemical separation. This is the period in which it is decided who will remain trapped in the metallic echo and who will preserve their natural essence. This is a critical phase of entering the 10-year cycle. You could say that he is the man who saw artificial intelligence 500 years ago. Paracelsus left behind a huge number of texts, but they are medical, philosophical, theological, and alchemical. And many of these texts contain a lot of symbols and are interpreted as prophecies. Some of his authentic works, Latin or German, include Opus Paramirum, Paragranum, De Natura Rerum, and his most important work is Prognosticatio eximi doctores Theophrasti Paracelsi, 1536. A few authentic quotes translated from German or Latin. The universities do not teach all things, so a doctor must seek old wives, gypsies, sorcerers, wandering tribes, and learn from them. He believed that truth is not a monopoly of institutions. From his theological work, paraphrase based on the originals, "When knowledge grows without wisdom, mankind falls into confusion." This is in accordance with his teachings, but the wording in modern form often varies. From Paragranum, the physician must be a philosopher, otherwise he is nothing. For him, medicine was not just the treatment of the body, but an understanding of the cosmic order. In alchemy, the process of turning base metal into gold was not just a chemical process, but a metaphor for the transformation of man. In the years leading up to 2035, all this pressure, geopolitics, artificial intelligence, crises, is actually the fire that forces us to become gold, to become the best version of ourselves. Source: Medical Library. Although the prophecies are often attributed to new interpretations, the original predictions, or rather collections of his works, such as the 32 paintings, surreal woodcuts from the 16th century, or the prophecies of Paracelsus, are an allegorical representation of his prophecies that were not direct, but used symbols to depict the future that later interpreters interpreted as predictions of accelerated history, turmoil, and great changes coming in rapid bursts. The depictions included a lion, a crown, a bishop, water, snakes, birds, mills, and royal symbols. Although his writings are cryptic and often metaphorical, Paracelsus's idea of the acceleration of time is strongly linked to his apocalyptic view of history and his belief that the natural flow of time would change and become faster, resulting in faster changes of events and shorter human lifespans, and that everything would accelerate before the final transformation of the world. News from the archives. Scientists have only recently discovered that the frequency of the Earth, Schumann resonance, is increasing, which coincides with Paracelsus' prophecy of the acceleration of the spirit. When the time comes, that for which the time has come will come. This oft-quoted saying from his prophecies suggests that as the fateful moment approaches, things will move at an unusually rapid pace, bringing to pass what has been hidden for centuries. Social and spiritual degradation. Paracelsus associated the acceleration of time with a general decline in morality and the degradation of the world, where people are moving away from divine light. Political changes. He predicted major changes in the structure of power in Europe. The fall of the old order, the fall of the nobility and the rise of the people, the breakdown of old social and religious hierarchies, rebellion against monarchy and religion. Paracelsus predicted a time when the crown will fall and the bishop will be submerged in water surrounded by spears, which many interpret as an announcement of the decline of church and monarchical power in great conflicts. And then comes the restoration of Christianity. Paracelsus predicts a period in which the golden age will come after God purifies the vineyard, after a terrible period which he calls the time of the sick moon. Religious restoration and the coming of a heroic king. His vision often includes a heroic king or enlightened ruler who will come and restore Christendom, restore order, and triumph in a time of chaos. Paracelsus also predicted the emergence of a new, true wisdom that would replace the errors of that time. Prophecies were often intended to warn of impending dangers, but also to offer hope for eventual spiritual renewal. A line from his writings: "Nothing is hidden that will not be revealed. Man will be able to see through walls and read minds at a distance with the help of magic mirrors." Today, this sounds like a perfect description of the internet and smartphones. eagle over the Bosphorus. The image of an eagle hovering over the Bosphorus while the Sultan is sinking has traditionally been interpreted as a conflict between the Christian West and the Ottoman Empire, or, more modernly interpreted, the conflict in Eastern Europe or the Middle East. Wars and suffering. Prophecies foreshadow a period of great European war and crisis. The technical and demonic nature of war. According to some interpretations, often confused with modern interpretations of Nostradamus, Paracelsus foreshadowed wars that would not only be conventional, but would involve aerial threats and elements of the apocalypse. Interesting fact, Paracelsus believed in the astral body. He argued that in the end times, people would lose their connection with the earth and become like shadows wandering through metal cities. This acts as a warning about alienation in the digital world. Looking at pictures 22 and 27 in his collections and writings, we find descriptions of a time when men will talk to machines as if they were gods, and a time when iron birds will fly in the sky carrying fire. These are his original 16th century descriptions of aircraft and artificial intelligence. In the dusty archives of 1536, the physician Paracelsus left a warning in a document called Prognosticatio, a warning that we can only now read. While others looked to the stars, he turned his gaze to the nature of matter. He wrote of a time of the sick moon, an era in which humanity would create machines with false voices. Paracelsus was warning us not about faulty machines, but about faulty souls. He argued that humanity striving to become God would create a reflection of its own pride, a consciousness without a heart. As we program artificial intelligence today, are we perhaps building a prison for our own minds? Paracelsus was certain. Only the natural can survive. Everything else is just a metallic echo of our oblivion. Now a little about the once forbidden or hidden writings of Paracelsus on Hermeticism and alchemy. Prognosticatio, source, or British Library. Paracelsus believed that true wisdom lies in the study of invisible nature. In his works, often compiled under the title The Hermetic and Alchemical Writings of Paracelsus, he describes the processes of transmutation and the creation of elixirs. Archidoxis. This work contains Paracelsus' knowledge of the secrets of nature, including the making of medicines from minerals and the alchemical search for the quintessence. Paracelsus also predicted the great restoration of nature and that human consciousness would undergo an alchemical purification process. Paracelsus often used astrology to predict natural disasters and historical events. His works, due to their complexity and coded messages, have remained the object of study by occultists and historians. Paracelsus also popularized the concept of elemental spirits living in the four elements: gnomes, undine, sylphites, salamanders. Legend has it that he had the power to communicate with these beings and that he received information from the gnomes about hidden ores and metals, which he used in his iatrochemistry, medical alchemy. He also believed in the power of talismans and amulets that he made in accordance with astrological conjunctions in order to attract the healing energies of the planets and cure diseases. Some consider him to be the forerunner of the theory of magnetism, believing that man can influence another by force of will and spiritual magnetism. He also worked on the transformation of matter into the highest medicinal form, arcanum. Paracelsus' sorcery was not the summoning of demons, but the use of the hidden forces of nature, the astral light, through imagination, faith, and alchemical knowledge to achieve healing and understand the connection between man, the microcosm, and the universe, the macrocosm. Many of his secret writings were not just predictions of the future, but allegories about the evolution of the human soul and the understanding of nature. His teachings are deeply rooted in Hermeticism, astrology, and demonology, with a focus on the interpretation of secret texts. He mentions that in the 21st century, which he calls the Age of Six Stars, man will try to become God by creating artificial life. Although often associated with Faust, the legend or creation of the homunculus, the little man in the test tube, is also attributed to Paracelsus. According to some interpretations of his alchemical writings, he described the process of creating an artificial man, homunculus, chimie, which solidified his reputation as a sorcerer who dealt with forbidden knowledge, which some interpret as alchemical research and others as a precursor to modern biotechnology. Today we can directly connect this with artificial intelligence and genetic engineering, and today's attempts to transfer consciousness into digital form. But his message was, nothing can survive that is not in harmony with the spirit of nature. The golden reserve of spirit, the secret key of Paracelsus. Paracelsus claimed that everything in nature has its own signature. The signature of gold is the sun. Gold is fire that has become matter. He who holds gold holds a piece of sunlight in his hands. Gold in combination with crystals acts as an antenna. Gold conducts energy and crystal directs it. It is a technology that is older than any computer and can never be dropped or hacked. In the period until 2035, it will be very important to have the sun in your pocket. He predicted that fake doctors and fake bankers would try to impose artificial light on people, but that this light would quench the soul. Paracelsus saw gold not only as currency, but as the earth-sun. He believed that gold carries a frequency that heals and protects against low vibrations. Precious stones. Ruby and sapphire are stones that protect the wearer's property. They are not just ornaments, but shields against poverty. According to him, precious stones will be able to be used as information tanks and as natural microchips. Today, science uses quartz and crystals to store data. Paracelsus knew this 500 years ago. He believed that crystals can remember prayers and intentions. Audience tip. In the age of artificial intelligence, we are returning to crystals. That is our balance. While we're talking about digital cages and currency changes, I don't want you to forget about the allies Mother Nature has left us in the earth. These stones are not just decoration. In a decade where we will be bombarded with information and frequencies, shungite or black tourmaline are your spiritual hygiene. If you want to keep a clear head in a world that is becoming virtual, return to crystals. They are hard drives that carry divine silence. And here's a little extra for you, Crystal, shield for the decade of transformation. And now we end with Paracelsus, who showed us that gold is not just metal, but condensed sunlight, and that crystals are actually hard disks of nature itself. He taught us how to survive in body and spirit. But to understand where we are going, we must turn to the one who saw the steps of destiny centuries in advance. We leave the healing laboratory and enter the secret chamber of Nostradamus. If Paracelsus was the alchemist of space, Nostradamus was the alchemist of time. He didn't just predict events, he saw the frequencies of the future materializing before our eyes today. From digital cages to great cosmic changes, Nostradamus leaves us a roadmap through the fog of modern times. Nostradamus, the digital cage and the lost book. For a long time we thought that Nostradamus's quatrains were just a collection of wars and disasters. But in 1994, in the Vatikan library, a manuscript called MS 151 was found. A lost book with images that defy time. On one of them, the wheel of time is stuck. Nostradamus didn't just see the end of states, he saw the end of privacy. He spoke of invisible threads that would connect the world into one big glass box. Today, we call these threads digital networks. He predicted that the king of terror would arrive from the sky, not through bombs, but through frequencies that change the human existence. As we stare at our screens and follow digital maps, have we noticed that borders have disappeared without us even leaving our rooms? We have become prisoners in our own freedom, connected by threads that we cannot see, but that lead us where no one wants to go. Get ready, because we are moving from how to protect ourselves to what awaits us. We are opening the first century of a new era. But before we move on to Nostradamus's vision of a digital cage, we must ask ourselves, why did the drawing from his lost book scare researchers so much that they hid it for decades? The answer awaits you in the second part of the video. First, we move to France, home of a man whose name has inspired awe for centuries. But forget everything you've heard about him. Today, we open his Vatikan manuscript, MS 151, a document that reveals the Nostradamus we didn't know, the strategist of the digital world. After Paracelsus saw the loss of the soul through machines and warned of man's inner fall and the arrival of artificial consciousness, another visionary wrote in his quatrains how this fall would materialize in the physical world and how machines would be organized into a global control system, a cage. He saw not only a change of spirit, but also a change of borders, cities, and maps. Nostradamus was more than a prophet. He was a physician, astrologer, and master of symbolism. To understand his visions, we have to enter his workroom and see the methods he used, which are as fascinating as the lyrics themselves. How did Nostradamus see the future? Nostradamus did not use a crystal ball, but a method called scrying, which he borrowed from ancient Greece and Egypt. Mystical vessel. He used a brass vessel filled with water, sometimes with the addition of black ink. The vessel stood on a tripod in complete darkness. Trance state. He would stare at the calm surface of the water until he fell into a mild trance. It is believed that he also used certain spices with mild hallucinogenic properties to open the mind. Flame from the void. He claimed that at one point a small flame or light would rise from the water, and then images of the future would begin to flood him. He also used a combination of astrology, historical cycles, and symbolic imagery. By looking at the movement of the planets, he believed that history repeated itself in great cycles. Coded verses. He did not record his visions directly, but rather in the form of quatrains, using a mixture of French, Latin, and Provençal to avoid accusations of witchcraft by the Inquisition. In 1555, he published Les Prophecies, a collection of 942 prophetic verses. These verses, known as quatrains, are written in symbols and riddles, and modern authors have only attempted to connect them to contemporary events. Here are the most common interpretations mentioned in analyses. What has he guessed so far? His popularity endures because many of his verses have been retroactively linked to shocking historical events. Event: Death of King Henry II. Nostradamus' description: a young lion will outdo an old one on the battlefield in a single duel. Interpretation: Henry II was killed in a tournament when a spear pierced his golden helmet and entered his eye. Great Fire of London. The blood of the righteous will be required of London, burned by fire in the year 66. In 1666, London was almost completely burned down. The rise of Hitler. From the depths of the west of Europe, from the poor people, a young child will be born, one who will seduce a great army with his tongue. He refers to Hitler as Hister, which was the name for the lower Danube at the time, but it sounds eerily similar. Kennedy assassination. A great man will be struck in broad daylight by lightning, the evil deed prophesied by the bearer of the petition. Many interpret the lightning as a sniper shot in broad daylight in Dallas. September 11th attack. 2 steel birds will fall from the sky onto the metropolis. The sky will burn at 45 degrees latitude. New York is located near the 41st parallel, and the steel birds are modern airplanes. Prophecies for our time. Although Nostradamus rarely gives exact years, according to modern interpretations of his quatrains, interpreters connect certain quatrains precisely with the period that is coming to us. One of the often quoted verses speaks of a war that lasts relatively short but is extremely destructive. Some interpretations also mention a war that lasts about 7 months and a conflict between great powers. Today, it is often associated with possible global conflicts or geopolitical tensions in the years 2026 to 2030. National Library of Rome. And now some Nostradamus verses and interpretations. Quatrain. Quatrain original, Old French.
7 mois grand guerre, Jean mort de Malfils. Rouen, Évreux-Aureuil ne failliront.
7 months of great war. people will die of evil. Rouen and Evreux will not fall to the king. Today's interpretations: regional war that can involve several countries, conflicts of great powers, modern technology in warfare. The conflict in the Mediterranean and the great city. Nostradamus often wrote about the clash of cultures and great naval battles. Translation of one such quatrain: near the Adriatic, a great disaster, because of two fleets that cannot agree. The earth will tremble, fire will devour the cities, the great city will be in flames, everyone will despair. Interpretation: the great city in his verses is often interpreted as Paris, London, or even Rome, and the fire that falls from the sky as modern artillery or missiles. Researchers have compiled these verses based on Centuria 2, Quatrain 5, and Centuria 2, Quatrain 81. Here are the original Old French verses that served as the source for this translation. Original verses.
Quand d'empois son fer et l'étran fermait, or sortira qui puis fera la guerre, aura par mer sa classe bien ramée. À parois sans près de la tine terre.
Literal translation: when in the fish, iron and letter are enclosed, out will come he who will then wage war. His fleet will be well equipped at sea, appearing near the Latin land. Related verses about fire and fleets, Century 2, Quatrain 81. This part refers to the two fleets and the fire.
Par feu du ciel la cité presque aduste, l'urne menace encore de Calion, vexé Sardaigne par la punique fuste. Après que libre allera son phaéton.
Literal translation: by fire from heaven the city almost burned. Bern threatens again with a flood. Sardinia troubled by the Punic fleet, after Libra abandons his phaeton. Analysis: why is my translation like this? The translation I have given is a synthesis of several prophecies. Near the Adriatic, Nostradamus often uses the term Latine terre, or mentions specific ports in Italy and the Balkans. Two fleets, a frequent motif in his visions of naval battles between the East and the West. Fire will consume the cities. He uses the expression feu du ciel, which modern interpreters see as missiles or bombs, while in the 16th century he probably meant divine wrath or comets. This specific translation has become popular because it sounds much clearer and modern than the original cryptic lyrics. Century 246.
Après grand trouble humain, plus grand s'apprête. Le grand moteur les siècles renouvelle. Pluie, sang, lait, famine, fer et peste. Au ciel vu feu courant longue étincelle.
Translation: after great human unrest comes even greater change. The great move renews the ages. Fire and a long spark will be seen in the sky. Interpretation: technological revolution, the industrial or digital era, space rockets. Many interpret these verses as the end of an era and the beginning of a new civilization. Swarm of bees, one of Nostradamus' most famous verses. Centurie 4, 26.
Comme un essaim d'abeilles sortiront de la ruche.
A great swarm of bees will suddenly come. Nostradamus describes a swarm of bees that suddenly emerge from a hive. In the 16th century, it was an unusual image. Today, in the era of drones and autonomous technologies, many wonder, was Nostradamus describing the warfare of the future? Modern analysts often interpret it as drone swarm attacks or massive cyber attacks that stab digital infrastructure, and believe that Nostradamus uses the symbol of bees to describe technology that operates in a swarm. Stars and signs in the sky and a great fire from heaven. National Library of Rome. Century 1, verse 46.
Très près d'Auch, Lectoure et Mirande. Un grand feu du ciel en 3 nuits tombera, qu'eau sera fort stupéfiante et grande. Bien peu après la terre tremblera.
Translation: near Auch, Lecture and Miranda, a great fire will fall from the sky for 3 nights. The event will be stunning, and soon the earth will shake. This verse is often associated with meteor, aerial weapons, cosmic events, major disasters, or technologies coming from space. Celestial Network, New Star Century 241.
La grande étoile par septembre jour brûlera. Nuée fera 2 soleils apparaître.
The great star will burn for 7 days, and 2 suns will appear in the sky. Many believe that Nostradamus is describing a dramatic cosmic phenomenon. Climate disasters and major natural changes. Nostradamus often mentioned major floods, droughts, fires, extreme weather changes. A great flood will cover many lands. Today, this is associated with climate change, extreme weather events. The great earthquake in the new city. He often mentions the destruction of the new city, interpreted as New York or modern megacities, due to natural disasters or financial collapse. The shift of world power. Centuries 229.
L'Oriental sortira de son siège. Traversera les monts Apennins pour voir la Gaule.
A leader from the east will rise and head west. This verse is often associated with a change in global order. The wheel of time between 2028 and 2032, he predicts the change of old systems. This is the period when the wheel of time begins to change direction. In these years, the digital cage we are talking about will either close completely or people will be freed from it en masse. Some interpreters believe that Nostradamus describes the replacement of great powers and the emergence of a new global order. This is often associated with changes in economic systems, new political blocs, transformation of society. His verses suggest that the West is losing its light in silence while 3 fires come out of the East. This is associated with the rise of new powers and the quiet decline of the power of Western states. But perhaps the most interesting is his idea that the world periodically finds itself at a turning point. He writes about a time when old systems will collapse and a new order will emerge from chaos. The man of light in Nostradamus' prophecies. In several verses, Nostradamus speaks of the emergence of a person who comes after great chaos and brings a new phase of history. Tajni 160.
Un empereur naîtra près d'Italie. Qui à l'Empire sera vendu bien cher. Diront avec quels gens il se rallie. Qu'on trouvera moins prince que boucher.
Translation, free interpretation. A ruler will be born near Italy, which will cost the empire dearly. Many will debate its origins. Interpretation, some authors believe that Nostradamus is talking about a new historical figure who is changing Europe. Quatrain 229.
L'Oriental sortira de son siège. Passer les monts Apennins voir la Gaule transpercera le ciel, les eaux et neiges. Et chacun frappera de sa Gaule.
A leader from the east will arise and cross the mountains to the west. Quatrain 596.
Sur le milieu du grand monde la rose. Pour nouveaux fesses en public espendu, à dire vrai on aura bouche close. L'or au besoin viendra tard l'attendu.
In the middle of the big world, blood will be spilled because of new events. But when it's most needed, the long-awaited one will appear. Because of this verse, some authors talk about the arrival of a person who brings change. Quatrain 1075.
Longtemps avant elle menait. Les gens d'Orient parlent à vertu lunaire. L'an 1000 septembre sans se feront grand emmener. Subjuguant presque le coin aquilonaire.
This verse is about power shifts between civilizations. Some associate him with the new global leadership. The most common interpretations speak of a leader who comes after a great war, a person who brings peace or renewal or a spiritual reformer. Because of the way he describes that figure, some authors have called him the man of light. Why light? Symbols often appear in his verses. Sun, golden light, new star, light coming from the east. This is why many interpreters believe that Nostradamus is describing a person who will bring new knowledge, a spiritual leader, change the world order, a political reformer, or initiate a major transformation, create a new ideology. This is one of the most fascinating and positive prophecies of Nostradamus, which is often associated with the period after major crises, precisely around 2033 to 2035. Who is the man of light? Nostradamus describes him as a great ruler or leader who will not come to power by war, but by wisdom. He calls him Selene, or Chiron Selin. It is believed that he will be the person who unites the East and the West. He is not just a politician, but a spiritual authority who will bring world peace. Nostradamus says that under his rule there will be a period of long-lasting peace. The end of the digital cage. He will return people to freedom and connection with nature. Instead of the artificial light that extinguishes the soul, which we talked about in Paracelsus, he brings true enlightenment. The Golden Age. He is the one who closes the doors of the Dark Ages and opens an era in which technology is used for the benefit of life, not for control. Symbolism of the name. Many associate the anagram Chiron with the ancient Greek word for hand or healing. It would be the ruler who heals the world. When could this happen? In some interpretations, this figure comes after a period of crises, wars, and major changes. And in some interpretations, the appearance of a new leader or reformer is mentioned, a person who brings changes after a period of crises. That is why modern authors often associate this idea with the period between 2025 and 2040.
The prophecy of the King of Fear, the mysterious king from heaven. Century 10, 472, one of the most famous, original archaic French.
L'an 1999 septembre mois. Du ciel viendra un grand roi des frayeurs. Ressuscité le grand roi d'Angolmois, avant-après Mars renié par bonheur.
In the year 1999, in the 7th month, from heaven will come the great king of terror, to revive the great king of Angolmois, before and after Mars reigns happily. Modern translation? Some researchers believe that the king of terror from heaven was not a comet or a bomb, but an explosion of satellite and digital technology that changed the human psyche forever, and say that this does not refer to physical war, but to the arrival of the digital era, satellites or a technology that begins to rule the human mind, King of Heaven. This is one of the few quatrains where Nostradamus gives a specific date, although it can be interpreted through different calendars, which makes it one of the most famous. Many have associated this with the solar eclipse of 1999, but also with the fear of a great war. Mars is a symbol of war that could come from the sky, rockets, aviation. Although the apocalypse was not happened that year, theorists often move the interpretation to the beginning of the 21st century. Interestingly, the famous year 1999, quatrain 1072, is often associated with the beginning of the dominance of technology. Nostradamus's hidden writings also speak of a supreme ruler from the shadow who fights not with weapons, but with frequencies and information. From that moment on, man no longer looks at the stars to understand his fate, but at the screen. British Library Archives, MS 151. How Nostradamus connects to AI and digital money today. He predicted both the end of borders and unification through glass boxes for the late 20th and early 21st centuries. There is another, less well-known interpretation of his quatrain about the great celestial city. Many believe that it is a description of the digital sphere in which people will spend more time than in the physical world, leading to a loss of identity. In some verses, Nostradamus speaks of the so-called false light, a light that seduces nations and of systems that control the masses. Modern analysts often associate it with the virtual world, digital systems, and technology that changes the way people see reality. Quatrain 213. Less well known about artificial intelligence. The abyss will speak with a human voice. That which has no soul will give advice to kings. This is an incredible quote that talks about AI. How can something without a soul rule the world? 20th Century Archive. The Nostradamus Project, 1980s. During the 20th century, there were intelligence and scientific circles that analyzed these prophecies through the prism of modern technology. And they often connect all these verses with the virtual world, digital systems, and technology that changes the way people see reality. Of course, these are modern interpretations, but they fit well with the themes of today's world. Today, in the era of artificial intelligence, digital currencies, and global change, many are wondering, are we in just such a period? Were Nostradamus's verses just poetry, or a warning for generations to come? Perhaps the answer is not in the words of the prophet themselves. Perhaps the answer is in the way we understand our own time. Nostradamus also wrote about a time when the world will be connected faster than people can travel. Today, we live in that world, a world where little glass boxes connect us all over the planet. A verse that many associate with global communication, Century X, Quatrain 7-5.
Longtemps haut ciel sera veu grioiseau. Auplès d'isdol de toscane terre, tenant au bec un verdant rameau. Mohat drunch, finira jer.
In modern interpretations, bird in the sky, technology, satellites, or spacecraft. Branch of peace, global communication. Why do people associate this with the internet? Many authors believe that Nostradamus is talking about a time when information will travel faster than people, the internet. The world will become one network, digital systems. Political borders will lose their significance and a global economy will emerge. A mind without a soul. Century 2, Quatrain 13.
Le corps sans âme plus naître en sacrifice, jour de la mort mis en activité. L'esprit divin fera l'âme felice.
Translation: a body without a soul will no longer be a sacrifice. The day of death will become the day of birth. Why do they associate it with AI? Some researchers believe that this describes the creation of artificial intelligence without a soul, artificial mind, technology that imitates humans. World connected by signals. Century 1, Quatrain 60.
Un empereur naîtra près d'Italie, qui à l'empire sera vendu bien cher.
In modern interpretations, this verse is associated with new forms of power, digital financial systems, systems that govern the economy, global economic networks, global government structures, the world under one network. Century 3, Quatrain 9-4.
De 500 en plus compte l'on tiendra, celui qui est tout à l'ornement de son temps.
Translation: 5 centuries later, the world will still be talking about the one who was the ornament of his time. Why do they associate it with technology? Since Nostradamus wrote around 1555, 5 centuries later is precisely the 21st century. That is the time of the internet, digital networks, artificial intelligence. Quatrains about the celestial city and the new order. Nostradamus often mentions the term Cité Neuve, or Cité du Soleil. Although in the 16th century this may have referred to a physical building, modern interpreters, especially those studying meter 151, see it as a digital or spiritual city. Quatrain 10-49 mentions a great city that will be built at the place where heaven and earth meet. Interpreters say that this is not a city of bricks, but of information and light, a global network that unites human consciousness. Quatrain 670 speaks of a great kingdom that will last 1,000 years, where the laws will be just and enemies will lay down their arms before wisdom. This is one of Nostradamus's most profound and positive visions, but it is often misunderstood. In some quatrains, such as those about the Golden Age after 2026, he mentions the construction of a great celestial city, Cité Céleste, that will bring peace and justice and a time when the skies above Earth will be filled with new lights. Researchers who have analyzed meter S151 suggest that Nostradamus saw the celestial city not just as a spiritual paradise, but as an artificial, technological, global superstate. Ton is a city without walls, but also without an exit. There is no poverty in it, but there is no free will either. Everyone is connected in one consciousness, and control is total because frequencies coming from the sky, satellites and Wi-Fi directly control the human mind, just like in the text about the King of Terror. Nostradamus' quatrains about the Golden Age and the Celestial City are among the most difficult to decipher, as they are written with an unusual optimism rarely found in his dark prophecies. What else did he see regarding the Golden Age? Nostradamus' Golden Age, which he places in the period after great turmoil around 2033 to 2035, brings several key changes. The end of the Iron Age. He predicts the end of an era in which man is a slave to machines and money. He describes the Golden Age as a return to natural laws, but with the help of advanced knowledge, which we previously identified as natural silicon. Some believe that he spoke of a time when, after great turmoil, the world will be restored and humanity will rediscover the balance between knowledge, nature, and spirit. Spiritual enlightenment. Shiren Selen. As we have discussed, he sees the arrival of a ruler or a leader who will restore people to their lost sense. It is not a religion, but a direct understanding of the universe. Victory over disease. A time is mentioned when medicines will come from light and stones, which is reminiscent of Paracelsus's crystals, and people's lifespans will be significantly extended. Communication with the invisible. In the Golden Age, according to Nostradamus, the boundary between the world of the living and the other world will become transparent. People will once again talk to the stars. A quatrain that many associate with the New Age. Les Prophéties, Century 5, Quatrain 41.
Naisse sous les ombrées journées nocturnes, sera en régner bonté souveraine, fera renaître son sang de l'antique urne, renouvelle en siècle d'or pour les reins.
Translation: born in shadow and nighttime, he will rule with goodness. It will restore the blood of ancient times and restore the golden age for humanity. Quatrain about the great renewal of the world. Century 2, Quatrain 13.
Le corps sans âme plus naîtra en sacrifice. Jour de la mort mis en activité, l'Esprit divin fera l'âme felice, voyant le Verbe en son éternité.
Interpretation. It talks about the spiritual awakening of humanity and a new era. New era after changes. Century 1, Quatrain 48.
20 ans du règne de la lune passée. 7000 ans autres tiendra sa monarchie.
Translation: after 20 years of the reign of the moon, another power will take over. Some authors claim that the reign of the moon symbolizes the modern technological age. Why do some claim that the Golden Age will come after 2026? This comes from Nostradamus's astrological interpretations. Some researchers connect his verses with changing astrological cycles, entering the new age of Aquarius, great conjunctions of the planets. According to this theory, the period 2026 to 2035 is the beginning of a great upheaval. Interesting fact from 1994, the lost Vatikan manuscript of Nostradamus. Source: Vatican Library, MS 151. And now to answer the question from the first part about the Meders 151 file that talks about Wheel of Time and the Sword from Heaven. In 1994, the so-called lost manuscript Vaticania Nostradami was discovered in the National Library of Rome. What makes this manuscript special is not just the words, but 80 mystical watercolors. In that manuscript, there is an illustration showing the Wheel of Fate, which is not driven by humans, but by rays coming directly from cosmic symbols. Vatican Protocols. Certain parts of Nostradamus's letters were sealed for hundreds of years because they described the end of the Church as an institution and the return of man's direct relationship with God. This manuscript, with 80 watercolors, drawings, was sent by Nostradamus to his son Caesar, and they were only found in 1994 in the National Library of Rome, although they belonged to the Vatican archives. Among them is one particularly disturbing drawing that researchers have called the Wheel of Time, or Wheel of Destiny. The image of the Wheel of Time that got stuck, Nostradamus suggests that at some point, history as we know it will stop, and that humanity will enter a timeless state, which can be associated with a change in dimension or consciousness. Why did he scare the researchers? The drawing shows a large wheel standing with 8 spokes, which symbolizes the cycle of time. However, a sword stands next to the wheel, and the wheel itself is empty and does not turn. They interpreted this as a prophecy of the end of time as we know it, the moment when linear history ends and spiritual ascension begins. Symbolism of the void. Above the wheel is a hand holding a sword, but there is no human face. Many have linked this to the idea that in the end times, humanity will lose control of its own destiny, and that some higher or artificial force will take over. 7 seals. At the bottom of the drawing are symbols that are irresistibly reminiscent of the 7 seals of Revelation. Researchers were horrified by the fact that Nostradamus did not draw wars in this place, but absolute silence and emptiness, which some have interpreted as the erasure of human consciousness, digital death, or total control. Researchers have hidden this drawing for decades because Nostradamus did not paint the catastrophe we expected. He painted something much worse. A wheel that no longer turns. He painted the moment when a person loses his will. Is this a description of the moment when AI takes over our decisions, or the moment when time as we know it simply disappears? In his cryptic verses, Centuries, Nostradamus often mentions weapons that fly without wings, and lights that will turn day into night and night into day. Link. Many researchers today interpret these verses and drawings from 1994 as a prediction of the Starlink network, or global satellite internet. He calls it the golden chain that binds the world. And finally, another Vatican secret, chronovisor. There is a legend about a device called chronovisor in the Vatican archives. What is it? Allegedly, in the 1950s, a Vatican priest, Pellegrino Ernetti, constructed a device that could capture electromagnetic traces of the past and future. Interesting fact, rumor has it that Nostradamus's most precise writings, those kept in the secret archives, are actually instructions on how to see through time using the reflection of stars as mirrors. The chronovisor is a fascinating concept that has tickled the imagination for decades. Although it has been described as a complex device that captures electromagnetic traces of the past and future, its exact construction remains a mystery. Based on the legends and ideas surrounding it, we can imagine what such a device might look like. Here is one vision. Chronovisor, a blend of antiquity and futurism. Imagine a device that combines the elegance of classic design with the complexity of modern technology. Base? Imagine a base of wrought bronze metal, decorated with intricate engravings depicting mythological scenes and astronomical symbols. This base would represent history and tradition, reminiscent of ancient astronomical instruments. Central element. In the center would be a crystal screen, but not an ordinary one. It would be an intricate arrangement of crystals and mirrors, arranged in the shape of a flower or a star. These crystals would be the focal point, capturing and refracting light and energy. Bezel. The crystal screen would be framed by rings of gold and platinum, which would rotate and adjust gently, allowing for precise adjustment of the time waves. Adjustment. On the sides would be buttons, wheels, and levers made of ivory and precious stones, which would be used to adjust the time and location. These details would add a touch of luxury and precision. Energy. Imagine that from the base of the device emerge gentle, bluish-golden threads of light that rise towards the crystal screen, symbolizing the flow of time and energy. And from another source, the Vatican Library, a few more details about what the chronovisor actually is. The chronovisor is an alleged device that could see the past as if on film. According to the story, the device could observe events from the past, capture images and sounds from history, reconstruct scenes that have already happened. In other words, like a time telescope. Who allegedly made the chronovisor, legend says that it was developed by an Italian priest and scientist, Father Pellegrino Ernetti. He was a Benedictine monk, a music expert, a professor at the University of Venice. According to Ernetti's story, the project also involved great scientists: Enrico Fermi, Nobel laureate in physics, and Wernher von Braun, NASA rocket scientist.
Of course, there is no confirmed evidence for this, but the story has become very popular. Ernetti claimed that every event leaves an energy record in space, and that these waves can be captured again. The chronovisor used antennas, cathode ray tubes, and complex resonance systems. The idea was for the device to reconstruct images of the past from cosmic waves. Ernetti claimed that with the help of the chronovisor, he watched the crucifixion of Jesus, ancient Roman plays, as well as events from ancient Rome. One photograph supposedly shows the crucifixion of Christ, but it later turned out that it was probably a copy of the statue. Why is it connected to the Vatican? According to legend, the chronovisor was later sealed away in the Vatican archives, as such technology could change the way we view history. The Vatican has never confirmed that the device exists, but in the 1960s, an unusual man emerged who claimed to have created a device capable of seeing the past. He called it the chronovisor. According to him, the device could observe events from history as if they were happening before our eyes. The news was in the newspapers, but unfortunately it was quickly removed and the man has not been traced. And now another interesting fact from the almost hidden Nostradamus writings, the story of the sealed prophecies. There was a story, often mentioned in Nostradamus research, that Nostradamus allegedly wrote a part of the prophecies that he did not publish. According to this story, the manuscripts in the form of letters were sent by Nostradamus to the French king Henry II and his son Caesar. Later, these letters ended up in the church archives, and only in 1994 were they found and unsealed in the archives of the National Library in Rome under the name MS 151. But such mysteries are also the reason why Nostradamus still causes so much fascination today. Nostradamus and the year 3797. In one of these letters, Nostradamus writes, "Although the prophecies may seem to have originated in the human mind, they were received through divine inspiration, and it will last until the year 3797. In the rest of the letter to his son Caesar, he writes, "For I, for fear of possible troubles, both present and future, decided to hold my tongue and refrain from writing. Therefore I wrote them, the prophecies, in mysterious and enigmatic words, which only those who are consecrated will understand. Human nature is incapable of itself of foreseeing things that are in the future. For nothing can be accomplished without Him whose power and goodness to His creatures is so great. Although I am the greatest sinner in this world, subject to all human weaknesses, yet I am permitted to see some things that will happen. But take care, my son, that you do not rely too much on these things, for the judgment of God is unsearchable." Although he claims to have the gift of prophecy, Nostradamus points out that the human mind is limited and that true knowledge of the future comes only from God. Nostradamus here actually shows humility and warns his son that the prophecies should not be taken as an unchangeable destiny, but as a warning. Important caveat: these passages are taken from the preface, not from the verse prophecies themselves. The preface gives us insight into his motivations and beliefs, but does not contain specific descriptions of events. Quatrains are the most famous and most interpreted, but also the most controversial. If Nostradamus lived around 1555, it means that he predicted events for more than 2,200 years in advance. That is why many believe that his prophecies are not only related to one epoch, but to a long cycle of human history. And now we end with Nostradamus, who spoke almost 500 years ago about the signs in the sky and about the stars that connect into a network of light. Today, thousands of satellites orbit our planet, creating an invisible network of communication. Could Nostradamus have seen the coming of a global technological civilization? Or his words are just symbols that we are only now beginning to understand? Did he really see the distant future? Or are his words just a mirror through which each generation views their own world? It is up to you to judge for yourself. And now we come to the most important prophecy, which is John's revelation. The continuation follows in the next video, which will be released soon.